After a phlegmatic farewell with one of the band's most determined mercenaries, you find yourself wondering if others may have shaped Gloomhaven's future, only to leave the city. You have heard of a town records building in the Coin District, but never visited. Deciding that it would be the best place to satiate your curiosity, you make your way to the large circular structure in the heart of the district. Stepping through the arched doorway of the town records building, you see it houses a massive yet woefully understocked library. A sinking feeling takes hold of your gut as you take in the barren shelves. You don't want the memory of your departed colleague to die with you inside one of Gloomhaven's dungeons. With an idea brewing in your mind, you search for one of the record keepers in the library. It takes a considerable while, but eventually you happen upon a small man meticulously rearranging what few books are on the shelves. You waste no time relaying your great idea to him. So, you want to start some sort of record of all the mercenaries who've moved on from Gloomhaven? The short, bearded man asks with a scowl. Sounds a little arrogant to me, but I'm sure I've got a spare record book somewhere in the stacks. He puts down his pen into the spine of the book he was inking and steps out from behind the counter at the front of the town records building. I'll be back in a bit. Don't steal anything. He gets in one more good scowl before turning and walking towards the back of the building, nearly tripping on his overly long robe multiple times. As he slips behind one of the many shelves of books, your attention shifts to the building itself. The town records building is a large, circular structure on the west side of the Coin District. Built as a status symbol for the town of wealthy merchants, anyone who actually enters can quickly see that the massive library is woefully understocked. Some sections, such as the teachings and philosophies of the Great Oak, are reasonably full, but many others have just a handful of books occupying long, barren shelves. Perhaps this was why some of your merchant friends were so adamant about you taking a trip to the town records building in the first place. Recording your party's exploits creates more content to fill these empty halls. With this in mind, your thoughts turn to the open book directly in front of you, the one the clerk was working on. There are two texts on the counter, and it looks as if the clerk was in the process of transcribing the writing of one into the other. Looking more closely, however, you notice the titles are different. The complete book is titled The Rise of Human Civilization, while the other is titled The History of Gloomhaven by Dominic Scrim. Intrigued, you begin to read what he was writing. At some point thousands of years ago, humans stopped hiding in caves and began to form societies out in the open, erecting modest farming villages that eventually grew into the massive, sprawling cities we see today. Living out in the open was never easy, though. There were wars, both amongst themselves and with other races, such as the Valraths to the south. More troubling, however, were the constant raids from the more barbaric races of the world. Inox and Vermling tribes, who had no concept of peace and wanted only to kill and destroy. Walls were always necessary, as were the armed men who guarded those walls. For this reason, the civilization of man grew and developed under a militaristic rule. Those skilled in warfare held the highest positions in society and governed from a perspective of keeping their charges safe from outside attacks. While this regime of strength kept the human race alive and functioning, it did stagnate the growth of other cultural facets of society. What the civilization lacked in culture, though, it made up for with rapid expansion and settlements spreading out from the north to every corner of the continent. This created a strong foothold to ensure that humans would continue to prosper and never again have to go back to hiding in caves. Best to start at the beginning, eh? Dominic now stands before you with a small amount of leather-bound parchment. I found this in the back. It should do well for your purposes, but I see you've found something as well. He shifts his feet a bit and hands you the parchment. Most people see Gloomhaven as some backwoods caravan stop, he says, in an accusatory tone. A necessary evil in the middle of a deadly wilderness. But I disagree. I love Gloomhaven, and I believe its history needs to be documented. I think this town plays a far more important role in the history of this continent than anyone realizes, and I'm going to prove it. Dominic flashes a brief nervous smile, and then grabs up the 2 books on the counter. But it's not finished yet, not by a long shot. Come back later, and I might have more history to share.